I'm in fucking shock. What the fuck did just happen? This is it, folks. It's the end of the line. It is a roller coaster within a big, long roller coaster of emotions, of arcs, and approach they do to conclude this unique show that HBO and Naughty Dog have developed together. I'm gonna let the guys go first because I can go on a rampage, as you probably noticed, probably in the non-spoiler reviews, and I don't want to do that. I want to hold everything in, let them get their stuff out, and then I can go. But Sam, Ty, take the lead. How are we feeling?
Masterpiece. Like, this is something that, from all intents and purposes, should not have even worked. The simple fact that they got Craig from Chernobyl and Neil, in this, it was a good green flag, right? But if you look back in any incarnation of video game to television adaptation in any format, it just doesn't work. And from the beginning of this, we've been emotionally compromised. We were riveted by their set design, their sound design, the score, the acting, but were they gonna nail how the narrative was gonna flow? You know what I mean? And that was all riding on this finale. And I had my thoughts. I was like, okay, they're gonna end it here, they're gonna end it there. But even though it wasn't the way that I thought it was gonna end, it still was a gut punch that nailed it. It stuck the landing. And that's all I can ask for in the season one. There's only a few shows that really stick that first season finale. Yeah. And the fact that the same exact emotional resonance that you feel at the end of the very first game, they magnify it in ways in this one because of certain human suggestion and certain things that Joel does, certain things that Ellie notices and doesn't say, unspoken things. I think that the thing that I love the best about this is this entire time, we've been seeing Joel trying to balance his emotions. We've seen him have a random first emotional reaction, kind of a trauma moment, that happened reminiscent to his daughter, very first episode. Then later on, we start seeing him dealing with some PTSD. He's dealing with anxiety. He's doubting himself. He's pouring out of emotion, but he hasn't been rage-filled. He hasn't made that selfish distinction of, I'm going to do whatever it takes because of this. We've seen him being brutal, but we've never seen him compromise whatever, Ellie's perspective is one way or another. And this was that episode. This is Joel unleashed, but what did he lose in the process? And I think that is going to be fascinating for me to hear you guys in the comments. How do you feel about Joel as a whole? If you've never played the games, what is your perception of Joel in this? Do you realize the decision he took away from her, but at the same exact time, how does Ellie feel about now this whole entire journey, all these people that have died for her, because of her, and for it not to be amounting to anything, what does that bring her to? Does that bring her lower? You know what I'm saying? It's just, I think it was perfect. I think the way that this ended made the whole season better for me. But we'll go into the details for sure. I'll leave it at Ty.
In an effort to not go all the way around the place like my emotions are having watched this last episode, this show, as a gamer, this show turned out exactly as I expected it to turn out. As a viewer, it has gone above and beyond my expectations of quality entertainment. As a lover of media, lover of entertainment, and who has suffered through many different variations of transitions of different forms of media to the big or small screen, this is how it should be done. So, to the folks who tried to transition in Assassin's Creed, to the folks who tried to transition Doom,
oof,
to M. Night Shyamalan, this is how Last Airbender should have been done. This is how you take This is how you take media that's always and here's the thing. I don't hate M. Night Shyamalan. He's done, an extensive library of work. But when you take something that already has its own beauty within it, and all you have to do is take it and transition it to a movie or TV screen where everything is laid out for you. Let me talk to the gamers for a minute after you see this. This is the Last of Us game on the screen. Now, they gave you a couple little tidbits of things where they implemented a couple new people and a couple little changes to make it fit in a real life world. They gave you some things that they didn't get to give you in the game. But this is literally, here's the blueprint. Here it is. Carbon copy paste. And it was epic. It was beautiful. It was beautiful because you could literally never play this. The transition from the game to the media is so good, you could have never played the game and still feel like you played the game.
That's it.
Watching this, you actually covered a game and downloadable content in this season.
Yeah.
Okay. This is The Last of Us and Left Behind. Having said all of that, this has been an emotional journey. This has been someone's rites of passage. And the emotional hitter is that at the end of it, nothing was done.
Yeah.
The world remains the same. And sad as it is to say, someone's justified selfishness is now prolonging this pandemic.
Yep.
All those people that sacrificed themselves, all those people that were killed, all those people who have suffered at this disease are now continuing to suffer because of one man's actions. Now, and I'm coming down to the focal point of this is, what would you do in that situation?
Right.
Do you and that has been the theme of this series. What would you do in this situation? Do you feel Joel was right in his action? Do you feel he was wrong in his actions? Do you feel the consequences of his actions are justified? If we were to take the entire country that remains and said, hey, we have a chance to create a cure, but it will cost one girl's life. Do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one? And I'm not talking about Ellie. I'm talking about Joel. Because Joel, in this whole effort, has now felt and has become a father again to a girl.
Yeah.
He feels he is doing what he could not do for his daughter when he lost her due to the violence of this pandemic, because we can't question Ellie on it. Ellie was ready to go.
Yeah.
Ellie may not have had any clue that she was going to die, but she was ready to sacrifice herself in order to have a better world, in order that there will be no Henrys or Sams.
Dang, come
that
on,
they're that they're right, that they're
I'm trying to start preaching, man. I ain't crying today.
that there will be no more Tesses, that there will be no more Fireflies, that there will be no more Fedras, that there will be no man, woman, or child that has to grow up in a world that has seen these kind of atrocities. How would we feel if we knew that Joel did what he did, even if it was to save Ellie, which we understand? But how would we feel knowing that he literally stopped the strongest possibility of saving the entire world by saving this one girl? That's what I love about this show. It gives you great intellectual discussion, but also great moral discussion. You will question your own morals in this. You will question and the thing is, there'll never be a definitive answer because no one knows what they would really do in
Exactly.
this particular situation. And
Right.
honestly, if there's one thing that unifies us, we all pray we never have to be in that environment to make those
Right.
kind of decisions.
And just real quick before Ronan goes, for context, you guys, this game came out in 2003. We
13.
asked ourselves 2013. We asked ourselves during that time, did Joel make the right decision? For years we questioned, like, did he do? And honestly, some of us still don't really know. I think the hard answer is there, but just like, I mean, I think the first episode we looked at, Ronan, we were talking about, you know, Tommy was asking Joe, like, we should pull over. This person has a kid.
Yeah.
And we all unanimously asked, would you realistically pull over if you had your child in the car with you, along with your brother? It'd be one thing if you're there by yourself.
Yeah.
But it's another thing if you're there with your child. And that throughout this whole entire thing. And I really want to actually start talking about the ending, because the truth of the matter is this hits different for me than the game. In the game, it was kind of like, okay, you're playing gameplay. Oh man, this sucks. Oh man, no, I'm not gonna sit there and let them kill Ellie. You know, your consciousness is more so like being reactive versus you're seeing this whole entire progression.
Observing.
Up until this point, you're like, okay, they're there. She's okay. You know, I'm taking myself out of being a gamer. I'm just looking at it retrospectively. And they're telling Joel, like, yeah, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to talk to her. You're not going to be able to see her anymore. She's gone. And all he asks is, can I please see her? And they denied him. And it's like, I feel like, I don't know if he would have had a second of opinion if they would have kept her up and had her be the one to tell him, I want to make this choice. You know what I mean? And I think that's why this series hits differently, because I'm seeing this little girl having to grow up so quickly. She may have, in the context of the show, made that conscientious decision to tell Joel, look, I don't really want to die, but if this will save lives, please let me do this. You know what I mean? Just that conversation alone.
Yeah.
But he didn't get an opportunity of having her make that decision. It was taken out of his hands, and in turn, it was taken out of hers, in his perception. And that's why I wanted to talk about, because it's like, even though I love the game, that visceral feeling, you know, even as a dad or a brother, just somebody you love, is just literally put into a location. They don't have any decisions one way or another at this point. Somebody's telling you that they're okay, but you didn't hear them. You didn't talk to them. That makes it personal for you. You know, you're connecting. So I wanted to talk about that from y'all's two perspectives. I know I'm jumping, you know, all the way to the end, but it messed me up thinking about it like that.
I literally told you guys, I don't know if it's in the reaction or not. Maybe it was afterwards, that I literally felt when he got the guns and was going to town, going one by one. It felt like the Terminator scene in the police station. I'll be back, and just trying to get to Sarah Connor.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, in the context, I was in my head, I'm like, we got to get Ellie. We got to get Ellie, okay?
Right.
But the way they shot it, I thought was fascinating, because you're showing the repercussions and also what is probably going through his mind, that like,
yeah,
she's gonna hate me for what I'm doing this, and I'm damning the rest of the world.
Right.
But in his mind is that she saved me, so that's got to count as something. She saved me,
wow.
You know, and that she may hate me, she might cast me out, but I'm giving her a second chance that a lot of people didn't get when the outbreak happened.
Right.
That I think he already knows, and he's knowing that this is I'm going to hell for this, and he's kind of content with it. He's okay with it, because even for a slight period afterwards, he gets to see her grow up a bit, and he gets to see that maybe she gets to live a life that a lot of people took for granted before the outbreak. And so I sensed that, dude. I'm like, he's become, in the way they shot it and the way they're framing it, in his mind, he's like, I become the Terminator, that I'm doing something that a lot of the rest of the world won't like and will hate me for this. And I listen, people. I still have friends of mine who are not sure. They're like, "Yo, he did the wrong thing. Like, it's not his choice and whatnot. Like, he should have, the need of the many outweigh the need of the few." But I'm not even a dad yet, and I'd be like, even if the rest of the world hates me, even if my child hates me, no,
It's not that cut and
I'm not
dry.
doing that.
Yeah.
A parent, and this is what sucks, and I apologize to people who watch this who are parents who've probably gone through this, but in my heart, I do truly feel that no parent should have to bury their child, much less do it again as Joel did already.
Yeah.
And I was just like, even if this is gonna come bite him in the ass, it's just like no. And I really, because here's the thing, they didn't let him talk to Ellie, but I could have sworn that Marlene said, "Then let's wake her up and ask her what she wants to do," because she knows that from her perspective, Ellie wants to do this. And I think to if it wasn't for the talk about Joel saying it was me who pulled the trigger, who tried to, I think once David happened, Ellie was set to be the savior of the world. But then once that confession came out, she said she must have been like so happy and moved, but also be like, damn, I can't let go of this guy now anymore. Even with her telling him that, like, I have to see this to the end, and then saying, after this, we'll go wherever you want.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's fascinating that people, that even the Fireflies, people be like, this is what Ellie will want to do. I'm like, hold on.
Right.
She does want to do this. But now that she's met a foster father, would she want to do this? Would the vaccine work all the way? It's a big. It's like rolling dice at a casino. Be like, is it gonna hit craps, or are you gonna
Right.
make the win? I do feel like what they're provoking of each of these minds is way more. They put it under the microscope way more than the game did.
Yeah, exactly.
The beauty of the game and the beauty of the show. The game is more subtle and it leaves it up to you to think how it is. In the game, it's showing it to you. If you pay close attention, if you understand more storytelling, that like Ellie senses something that is not 100%, and Joel senses it like right before they got separated, it's not gonna be the same anymore.
Yeah.
And he desperately wants it to be another way, but he knows it's not gonna be the same anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my take as of right now, because I want to dive deep into that conversation with Joel and Ellie later on. But Ty, what did you think of that? How they concluded the game? Because we were like, no way they're doing this right now.
Yeah. So I'm going to play devil's advocate a bit. And when I say this, please understand when I'm prefacing this, I didn't want Ellie to go either. Please understand it. I fell in love with Ellie. I fell in love with Joel. Their bond, their the bond that they create, as foster father, foster daughter, this whole thing being forged by fire, where he's probably doing the things that he didn't get to do with his daughter, is absolutely beautiful. But here's the reality. That's not his child. That's not his child. And it was not his choice to make. The only reason why, it was Ellie's choice to make, but the only reason why I do not have an issue really with what Joel did is I really don't think Ellie knew.
I don't either.
That they were going to have to dig into her brain and basically kill her for that.
Not in this version. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, although she said she wanted to see it through to the end, she also said, we're going to see it through to the end, like you said, Ronan, and then after that, we'll do whatever you want to do. Right. I'm sure she thought this was going to probably be nothing more than some kind of surgery involving some kind of blood extraction, where the antibodies or things that have been developed in her blood can make a vaccine. I guess that's what she thought.
Right.
They never clearly define if Ellie knew the full thing as to what they would have to do to even have a better percentage, because there's still no guarantees that it would.
Right.
She happened to be, the Neo in the Last of Us Matrix. Like, she happened to be that anomaly, and she's the only one. So there is no guarantee. She's basically Blade. Her mother basically got infected when she was pregnant with her just
Right.
before she delivered her. And
We
the
gotta talk
umbilical
about that.
cord, like you
Oh
brought
my
out,
God.
Sam, was still connected. She's basically Blade. She's
Yep.
I
basically
was about to say, yeah.
she's basically a clicker walker. She's the walker. She's the day walker. She's you know, she's the bloater walker. She is that. You know,
A click walker.
you know, she's a click walker. Like, but the question that will always be out there, well, for those that haven't played the games, really, well, honestly, even for those who have played the games, is would she have made the same decision if she knew fully that it was going to cost her her life?
Right.
Like, there will be no, we'll do whatever you want after this.
Right.
You know,
Ooh,
I think here's what I think. I think if she did decide to go through with it, knowing fully well she would die, she would probably only have one condition, and that would be that Joel gets the first dose of the vaccine. That would be it. I think that would be it. You know,
at least talk to him and tell him goodbye. Like, there's no rush here. All you had to do is say, "Look, I want
one
to tell
last day
Joel
with
goodbye."
him.
Right? Yeah. They made that decision on. That's why this hits different for me, because it's like they didn't put the stipulations like, okay, let's all talk about this. You guys got here. Congratulations. This is what's on the line. Ellie, are you still down to do this to save everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Joel, look, you have your last moments with her. She's chosen to do this, and then go that way. But they took it out of both of their hands, and now it alienates both of them and the world, because it's like the decisions of one person, like Ty said, it tears apart the whole world. But they didn't put they didn't put them in the right place for that to actually be a real conversation.
Fireflies are basically, we can't give them all the information because they want to see this through. They want to get this vaccine. They're making decisions even without letting those that are key in those decisions, or they have goals that even with people that are key in those goals, from making that decision themselves. And this is, and part of this, and this is why you can't miss anything in the show.
Yep.
Part of the one key factor that separates this from the games that I love, especially in this particular discussion we're talking about, is we now have connections that would factor in. Prime example, Ellie's mother. If Ellie's mother in any way, shape, or form knew that she was giving her baby to a woman who was eventually going to utilize her as nothing but a means to an end, even like she basically treated her child like it's Harry Potter, like you're basically raising her for slaughter. Like, we now have those kind of ties. You know, we didn't have that in the game. You know, we can talk about this all day long, but this is why I approach this with the dichotomy of the gamer versus the viewer, and actually utilize both of them to have these conversations, because now we have emotional ties. Like, now, not that we didn't in the game, but now there's more roots to it. There's more roots to this tree. There's Ellie's mom, you know, who we now find out why she is the way she is, why Ellie is basically immune. And then it even begs to question, would it even work? Because there's no guarantee that Ellie just didn't have that stuff anyway. And because she already had it, the spores didn't really do anything. You know, she could have just been a child who was basically infected and has always had it, but her body just grew with it. You know, where she couldn't infect others. You know, it was kind of like a dormant gene, you know. So, and when she did get bitten in that Left Behind section, it probably didn't do anything but bring about something she's already had. So, you know, there's no guarantees to this thing. And that's the one thing about this show and the game. There are no guarantees to anything. Nothing. The only guarantee is that you're going to go through these experiences that are going to make you question things. And at the end, this one has no winner at all. There's no win at all. Actually, even the only person that does get a win, it's an empty win. It's Joel's win. because Joel knows what he's sacrificing or could possibly be sacrificing.
And okay,
Yeah,
so you brought it up,
gotta
Ty,
stop.
and we need to somehow like go through it from beginning, middle, end. I've been biting my tongue since we finished it to talk about it. Okay, folks, spoilers.
I mean, it's
The
a spoiler
opening,
discussion. Y'all should know.
exactly. Opening, we see a lady running. Just hearing the grunt, I was like, "Holy shit, that's Ashley!" And then it turns, and it's Ashley Johnson, pregnant, and we all flipped the f out. I'm like, "That's Anna. That's Anna." And that was the moment when I remember at CCXP that we saw Sam. That was like Craig was like, "Listen, even if you play the game, there's gonna be surprises for you." That was the surprise for me. That I'm like, "Whoa!" And we see her pregnant. She goes to this house. She gets attacked, knocks off a runner or
I think it was a
stalker.
I think it definitely was a stalker.
Same thing with just like Ellie with the knife, same style. So you know they're related style, but she gets bitten, and we see the origin of how this potentially works, and we're just sitting there waiting to see, okay, what's gonna happen next.
Right.
And Marlene comes in. They're debating it for a few seconds, be like, what do we do? And Ellie, Jesus, I'm already calling Ellie. Anna asks her, take my kid and finish me off.
Yeah.
Just like
shout out to OG Ellie though.
That is one of the most poetic things I've seen in a long time. Where it's like the person who brought us here, Cole brought us here, and Ashley Johnson is Ellie, is playing her mom in the context of this show and giving birth to Ellie and being like, all right, now I have to let you go because I'm not going to be around here anytime soon. And my big thing was that I can't believe that is one of the most beautiful, attractive things I've ever seen. But from the get-go, the minute that the episode ended, I was like, what would Anna do? What would Anna think about this?
Right.
In my heart, because I've already gone out and reckon and be like, you know what? I'm with Joel. And then people, when we get to that finale, I'd be like, you know what? The Earth had its chance. It took stuff for granted. This is the consequences. And no child should have to suffer for the consequences of the life before the outbreak. And I thought to myself, what would Anna think if she was in that scenario, in that room with Marlene and Joel? And I think I would love, this is a scenario where I tell Sam, I would love if we get a chance to talk to Ashley one day or even Bella, I'd be like, what would Anna think of what went down and how they would perceive it? And I think she would, in my heart, I could be wrong, that she would be with Joel. And she would, if she wouldn't be with Joel, she would at least from a distance would be like, thank you, Joel. I know what this cost, but you went out of your way to save my child, your adopted daughter now. Good luck to you. Thanks. Like
that's definitely an Ashley, Pedro, and Bella discussion right there.
Oh, dude, that was the one thing I was just like,
but you see, that's my key point. If Anna was there, that's her choice to make. That's her child.
Right.
That's her child. That ain't Joel's choice to make. But I agree with you. I agree with you, Ronan. I honestly, if that was a situation, I would have been like, yo, ride or die. These folks got to go. We got to save Ellie and Ro. Like that. Like I didn't want her to die, but that's what's great about this show. It specifically puts scenarios together that you know, because we know that it takes out all the guarantees. If Anna was there, guarantee she's saving her child. You know, she gonna convince Joel to save her child, guaranteed. You know, if Ellie knew the whole thing, she probably wouldn't want to do it, or maybe she would, but it would still be an issue. But the thing is, they've taken out all those things, because even when Joel is telling Ellie what happened, his version, she has this look on her face,
the doubt
like
in her eyes,
of doubt, like she knows knows he's lying through his teeth. That's why he made her promise, because she's looking for a means to live with the fact that everything that she did and they went through was for nothing.
Right.
And the only way she gets that is if Joel promises her that's what happened.
But that's the perspective of like they did this all for nothing. And is that the case? Because look what this man was willing to do. That's not something. That's not something you do just on a coin cost. Like, and that's what I always thought myself. Did Marlene know about Sarah when she chose to make the deal with Joe and Tess? Be like, you know what this man went through. You're really gonna put him with this little girl now, and that's something that's gonna haunt me forever.
So
I gotta say this: that opening with Anna. I don't know if you guys caught it, but the music hit me because that's the music from A Quiet Place. At least that's the first time I ever heard it. It's when spoilers for Quiet Place. In the beginning of the first movie, John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, they lose a child.
Yep.
And it was that same music that they used in A Quiet Place, in A Quiet Place Part 2. They used it for Anna's birthing scene with Ellie. I thought that was so poetic. And, go Sam.
Yeah, just to touch on, before I even talk about Ashley Johnson, because, oh my God. Marlene, I think truly Marlene loved Anna.
Yeah.
I think that she looked at Ellie as her responsibility. But at a certain point, and just like Joel, we've seen Joel be jaded for the past 20 years and change to be something completely different, right? I think at a certain point, Marlene realized, oh, wow, this girl is really important. She studied her. She watched her. I think that she actually kept Ellie's friend away because of the same exact reasons why she got Ellie to where she got her to. She was like, the means justify, and I think the truth of the matter is when you ask that question, Ronan, who better to protect Ellie than somebody that has lost a daughter that is not gonna stop by any means necessary? And by chance, if they do get emotionally connected, he will definitely get her there. I think that she counted on that. And that's the sad thing. And I think that there's another character that we looked at Chainsaw Man, and there's a character named Makima, right? Makima plays as this, at times she feels so loyal and connected. And in others, she's just cold and manipulative. And I think that this is the first time I've seen Marlene framed like this. I think it's both. I think she truly does care. I think she truly put her faith in Joel to do this because she wasn't capable of doing it. She even gave him his credit. But I think at the end of the day, she used that because the truth of the matter is she could have made that decision. Just like she kept Ellie alive this whole entire time. She could have easily said, look, okay, we're going to wait till Joel wakes up and have this conversation now. She chose conscious to make that because she knew his reaction would be. And she also knew how Ellie would react because she know that Ellie's become connected with somebody finally.
Oh, yeah.
That's the whole thing. Like, I think that
it's
Ellie's
sticky,
Ellie's connection with Riley would have been a whole nother thing. It's like, oh man, she's not going to willing to sacrifice because I need to get her away from this girl because she's not going to be where I need her to be. All this is manipulation and it's sad, but I think that that's the frameworks of the world. Like these past 20 years, like that's what made them be this way. Ellie is the only one that she was born into it, molded by it. I knew I had to do that. But anyway, going back to
it. Molded by it.
I see that dogs.
Going back to
so
Ashley Johnson. Hold on, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, Sam, before you go into Ashley, I'm gonna put a question. I want to just put a question out there for you guys. Is Anna and Marlene the original Ellie and Dina?
I thought about that. I'm like, were they a thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Like now that we have deeper roots in this thing, is that the case?
Seems like it. It definitely seems like that. I don't know who the birth dad is. That's a whole nother thing. Is the birth dad still alive? Anyway, we're not gonna go there. Going to Ashley Johnson.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Going to Ashley Johnson.
Johnson.
Give her her flowers, man.
This is the thing about Ashley. Ashley, in this show, gave birth to Ellie. But metaphorically speaking, she also gave birth to Ellie. She made it her own, right? And she's literally giving birth to and also passing the torch on. The knife, bro. The knife that Ellie's had this whole entire time is the same exact knife that her mom used to defend and protect her and literally cut her in biblical cord. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is insane. And dude, that whole sequence was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. Because we didn't really know how this played out. Like we had no idea. I was like,
Never
is
knew
this-
about that.
we just
Never
knew
knew.
that maybe this is how we're gonna find out how Ellie is immune, but we didn't know the consequences. And it was not in the game. For you guys that are, just watching this as a show and never played the game, this was not in the game. We had no idea. We were completely caught off guard by it. It was well directed. The music was on point, like you said. But Ashley's acting.
Yeah.
Oh, she got her flowers, bro. She
Mhm.
literally passed the torch on to Bella while at the same time making a mark for herself as a series, as a franchise. Like, that's crazy. Like, that doesn't happen. And what was even messed up about it is when she had to, cut the umbilical cord, baby's literally on the floor. Like, she's sitting there being panicking, terrified. She held her baby as she's slowly starting to turn. In the back of her head, she had to have been thinking, what if I turn before,
Right now. Yeah.
Somebody comes? She didn't know. I think what she would have probably have done is probably killed herself before eating her own child. But it's kind of like, to what ends? Because if there's nobody coming, then the baby's just literally left alone. So as soon as Marlene came in there, like the way they set up the framing for that, oh man!
And it's just even because you have to do the math that Ellie's 14 in the present time when we meet Joel in 2023. So
Yep.
this must have been what, 6 years, 5 years, 7 years into the outbreak.
Yep.
How much do people know of how long it takes for someone to turn? What are the scenarios of what to do in that sequence besides the obvious? And yeah, man, and just it's almost, it was a horror sequence inside a horror house where it's like it's all empty and you hear this noise and it's
yeah, that's right, because she was outside and you heard the screaming
running,
and us as the game was like, oh crap, this is not good. Like, I hear the screaming.
Hey, first off, I just want to say, Ashley, I've been a fan since you were the waitress in the original Avengers. Just put that out there. 2012.
What was it? Was it Family? Oh my gosh, what was the show that Leonardo DiCaprio was also on? Crap, because she was the daughter.
She was a child actress as well, right?
I forget what was that show.
Oh yeah,
Family. I can't remember the name of the show. But anyway, she, as an opening of the finale, it was perfect. Like, it set the tone for the rest of the episode, because later on, when you think about what Ellie went through in the last episode, and Joel, this whole entire episode is trying to get her to open up, to breathe again, to be a child again. She just couldn't do it. And we'll get to the giraffe scene, but it was the conversation after that where she finally, and this was one thing that was a critique for Ty with the Left Behind episode, she finally divulged with exposition to Joel what happened, like why she killed somebody before, what happened to Riley, how Riley died. And it was just heartbreaking. Like, her explaining it that way. Like, they didn't even have to actually physically show it. It was the fact that she finally felt comfortable enough to let out something to him.
Right.
In the midst of her trauma, because she needed to get that off the chest, because they needed that one last niche and connection. And that was some powerful stuff. And his reaction to it was even more powerful. But yeah, sorry.
And him, listen, I always thought he probably did at one point, but it's nothing to play it in your mind and just subtly just think about it. But him confessing, I went dark the second day. He said the second day I went dark.
Oh gosh, that's right.
He said I was ready to go. I
forgot about that.
And I thought, what's weird is it wasn't even nitpicky. I'm like, oh, that's a fun scenario where like Joel wasn't good at defensively as I thought he would. He was saying, I got hit in the head by a bullet and I missed the other guy. He'd be like, it was me. And just her just sitting on that rock or that bench and just him letting it out. And she knows what this means.
Yeah.
And
she knows she now really knows what he's capable of.
Right.
And now, and I'm already getting emotional thinking about it. Her saying, well, thankfully time heals everything. And he's like, it wasn't time. That look. It was, folks. I'm not gonna
Uh,
say the context, but I'm just saying there's something similar in part two that this harkened back to. This is an echo of what we might see one day in the series, but it's literally almost different dialogue, different scenario. But it was him. Just the look. It wasn't time. The look, and I
Yeah.
was even our reaction, me getting emotional. I'm like, don't say anything else. That's it. Leave it like that. If
Yeah.
us humans should be smart enough to know what that implies, and her saying, "Well, I'm glad it didn't work out." That would happen of what happened with you two. Ty, Sam, were you guys shocked that he actually confessed what he went through? Because that's
No.
huge. That's something that I was like, let it out.
Honestly, to tell you the truth, no, because the thing is, honestly, it's a prequel to the decision he makes to save Ellie. Because remember, if you remember, we're playing the game right after, David gets killed and they move on and they're, finally making their way to the Fireflies. He's now become more open with Ellie.
Yep.
When they're having those conversations, even in the series, just before the Fireflies knock them out, he's making these bonds. He's already made these bonds. By this point, it's too late. She has basically replaced Tess, replaced his daughter. She is now that bond, that connection.
His purpose.
He has now made her the connection to his
Yeah.
morality.
Yeah.
He has made her that one thing that makes everything else he's done validated and justified. So when you see that, you really already kind of know what's going to happen. He's not going to let her die. As soon as Marlene tells him that they're going to have to go into her brain, which means she's going to die, that was it.
Yeah.
That's all. Like, and it was so fast because even as soon as she said it, he was like, no, choose another, find another. It was like at that point, you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
If they had gotten to them, before Henry and Sam, or even slightly after Henry and Sam, and not to the point where they had bonded, even before the giraffes, you might have questioned what Joel might do. But after he confessed what he did, without them having to say much, and that he felt comfortable revealing it to her,
right?
And, you already knew he was all the way in. He was all the way in, and nobody was going. He didn't have any problem with them extracting blood or doing any of that stuff. But her death was now off the table.
Off the table.
Yeah. Off the table. And I honestly think even if she made that statement, even if she said, Joel, it's okay. I want to do this. I'm willing to sacrifice myself. He wasn't willing to let her go, especially when there was no 100% guarantee that if they extracted that and they killed her, that there would be a cure, for all mankind. That was off the table. I'm not surprised, because at that point, when you've gone through that kind of fire, you forge something. And the bond that they forged is literally diamond. You can't break it.
What a switch, Sam, because I saw the environment. I'm like, oh, I know what's happening here. I know what we're going to talk about right now. I knew what was going to be talked about. And genius of the show, they flipped it on me with the same emotional weight. In the game. For you those who haven't played it, play it now before I spoil it. But in that sequence, Joel finally talks about Sarah. Right. She's like, is that when you lost Sarah? He's like, yes, it was. She's like, I can't imagine losing anyone like that, Joel. I'm sorry. He's like, it's okay, Ellie. And what does she do that they didn't do in the series? The photo of Sarah and Joel, her playing soccer. She said, I borrowed this from you. I just wanted to give it to you. She gives it to him, and he goes, you can't escape your past. He's like, thanks for giving me this.
Yeah.
Again, flipped it, but with the same weight of what?
Beautifully done. Beautifully done.
Oh, Sam. Oh.
And when he finally accepted that, because it's not like his brother didn't try to give it to him too. His brother was like, nah to his brother. But at that point, when he finally got to go through his emotional trauma and finally come to terms with it, once he accepted that picture, and it's so funny, he accepts it from Ellie. It's one of those situations where you got to ask yourself, if Bruce Wayne went through this same emotional process, would there be a Batman? because that's really what we're dealing with. We're dealing with someone who hasn't gone, who hadn't this whole time
Come to terms
gone
with it.
through, come to terms with it, or dealt with it in a productive way.
Yeah.
In a way that would allow him to move forward. He's basically been stuck for years as a grieving father, and now it just so happens to be another little girl, another young girl who brings him to that redemption, that nirvana. You think he's gonna let that go? No, that's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Yeah.
Death for Ellie was off the table at that point already.
Yeah, to answer your question, Ronan, was I surprised? I think I was surprised in the context of them in the delivery behind it. It kind of threw me off because I was like, dang, it makes sense, but for him to openly use that line of dialogue like that and openly share that with her, he's no longer seeing her as just some kid or even somebody that he's willing to protect. He's seeing her as family. You only divulge stuff like that, like in the way that he did it, openly and freely like that, to somebody you consider family, right?
I don't got friends.
The
I
thing,
got family. I
the
live my life quarter mile at a time.
the thing that I'm not surprised by is Neil and Craig. These ninjas, this whole entire show, have been giving us these gut punches. It was just one last good old gut punch before the finale.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Neil has this way of his storytelling that it hurts you. Like, it's not about the entertainment. It's about the rawness of the reality. And it's kind of like, if you think about it, like just a few episodes back, this man Joe should have died. If it wasn't for this little girl, he'd been dead, And it's like, you don't forget something like that. You don't. You can't. Like that's it. Not only did she willingly sacrifice and put herself out there for him to save him, she lost a bit of her innocence to save him.
Yeah.
And so if you think about it in that context, it's like, how can he not be immortally connected to this young girl? Like, there's no way. He might have cared about her. He might have seen her importance, her value. He might have seen something in her that connects and harpens to his daughter. Because we talked about this, Ronan. It's kind of like, this was 20 years later. Like, technically, the daughter would be what? Sarah was 16
30
years
something.
old?
She was like 12, 15. Yeah. She would have been in her mid 30s.
She's been in her 30s. Like some people in their 30s have like 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds. So I'm saying that there's a connection with this girl that, like Ty said, it awakens something that he never had before. It's just very different. And I think the thing about the conversation about the suicide, I think it's just the way he told it.
Yeah.
Because he had been keeping it under wraps this whole entire time. And like you said, Ronan, it was kind of like, oh, okay, that's weird. Stretch on Joel, like just missing. Like, no. Like he missed what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just so much emotional resonance and pain behind it. But I don't know. This is the weird thing about this season finale. I was as hurtful and messed up as it is, man, I at the same exact time, like I felt so many different other ranges of emotion. Because it's something about self-sacrifice and willing to break protocol to protect, to save, to defy boundaries. The way that they handled this episode, like I was kind of felt like really encouraged. I was emotional, but it wasn't like, oh, well, I feel depressed. You know what I mean? Like I didn't come out of this depressed. I didn't come out of this feeling, oh man, this
enlightened.
is so
That's
rushed.
what I felt about it. I felt
Like,
enlightened.
I was like,
great word, Ronan. Yep, that's kind of how you felt.
Through the whole entire experience of this series, there's been so much darkness and so much pain, but there's so much beauty. Like Bill and Frank's episode is nothing but sheer beauty in the midst of tragedy, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you look at the relationship of Ellie and Joel from their inception to where they ended this, even though their emotions and their relationship is completely strained forever,
Yeah.
There's so much beauty in it, bro. That's the thing that you can't take away from this. Like, there's no way you can't. But yeah.
And listen, speaking of beauty and the laws of innocence, and you said about the gut punch of emotion. It wasn't even just a one gut punch. It was two, at least for me. It was you called it. You're like gameplay, and I was like, yep, that's like the gameplay of Ellie the ladder, and
Mhm.
I sensed it, dude. Because again, I haven't played in a while. It's just that's how much of an impact the game made on my memory. Her
Right.
going up and getting the elevator, I was like, please, and God bless you, Sam. You're like, Ronan, calm down. I heard a noise. I heard an animal noise, and I went, shush, shh. And then she looks, runs off, drops the elevator, and I was like, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it. And it was just
This
waiting,
man
waiting,
Ronan
waiting.
was freaking out. He lost it.
I listen,
He lost it.
and well
He lost it.
within his right, because it was such an epic scene
Mm-hmm.
in the game, and they transitioned it so well to the mute movie. Like, I feel you, bro. Listen, fam. Hug the giraffe, man. Get a giraffe some love. Like, it was so great. And that's the other thing about Neil and the rest of the folks. It's like they know just when to give you enough darkness and when to give you enough light to appreciate it.
Yep.
To understand that in order to understand and truly appreciate this light, you have to go through that darkness. But in that darkness, you're building this forge, you're forging this fire of a bond between, I said, I've said this in one of our spoiler reviews or regular reviews. This is the 2023 version of Lone Wolf and Cub. Like, this is that. And you can compare it if you want to with that. You can compare it if you want to with Mando, the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But what you always have to remember is that Ellie's at a certain age of maturity, which of course, Baby Yoda and all that wouldn't come through for a while, although, he's already intelligent and mature. But the fact of the matter is there's this bond that's being forged through their own shared grief and separate grief.
Yeah.
And it's, you just have to love it. And in the midst of it, they still find ways to say, look, this is hell. But even in hell, there are little bits of heaven. And it's just amazing how they do it, like that you can find some happiness in it, for even if it's for a few fleeting moments with an animal that you've never seen, that's not that's not normal in their aspect of the world and where they were in the world. But for them to see that and appreciate that, and it even opens up their bond more, because they get to share these positive experiences, which they really haven't done a lot of. They either share a lot of negative ones, or they create their own positive moments together where she's telling him jokes and all that stuff. What I loved about the giraffes is that this is just a natural event for them. It's not something where they're just trying to make some happiness so they can survive, so they don't go insane, so that they can have a smile. This is something where they're both truly awe-inspired, just like they react when they're being attacked or when something crazy happens. They still have those same reactions when they see beauty and things that are wonders. They did an excellent job, man. Just so good.
Sam said it best. She needed this. After what we just went through with her, she needed this. And then look at the irony of David's line: everything happens for a reason. And then that's another cool discussion. Without the confession of Joel's attempted suicide, and without this draft, Ellie being on a down low, would she have been like, screw it, I'll die, whatever, I'll save the world?
Yeah.
What does it mean after she went through these two sequences back to back? I'm like, look, life is shitty, but you have to go to sleep at a certain point, and you wake up the next day. And you wake up the next day, the sun still rises. This was for her the sun rising, her waking up, being like, it can be bad, but there's another day, a new day for a new opportunity. And that's where I'm like, wow, what without these two sequences of the giraffe and Joe's confession, how more deeper she would have been with being like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, I think that's perfect thought, because when, Lord knows, when Henry and Sam passed, she couldn't deal with it. She was like, where's Wes? Like, let's go. Like, she was kind of like, let's get this over with. Like, I'm ready to keep going. I think that was a precursor to what she was going down that road for sure. Because I mean, we talked about it. It was a harsh episode, man. When you really understand what she really truly went through, like, she was done. And every single time, Joel kept on trying to be there. He kept on saying, "Are you okay? Are you this?" And she was just spaced out. Like, I think what would hurt worse if she started having like random. You heard her thoughts, or she started talking to herself about what happened, or she had like random like flash of memory. That's where the Darren Aronofsky, moments come in, where they're just overly trying to be. That's where I think that Ty is perfectly correct. Like, there's a perfect balance of tragedy, darkness, and enlightenment, lifting up and levity and light, that they're always going back and forth with, all the way to the end. Because that end sequence, like, we know as gamers where this is going.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, we don't. And that's one thing that I want to talk to y'all about is, now that this is over, they've gone through the whole first game. Where do we go next? Because the first game and the second game, there's a 5-year gap. And there's a lot of living to do. There's a lot of conversations to be had. They haven't even made it back to talk to Tommy yet.
I do think, I feel, because the way they use flashbacks in this season was amazing. But here's the thing. To make those 5 years felt, and they should, because it's different with gameplay, I think second season should be the 5-year gap. It should be before you run us through the mills with part 2, because even part 2, it's perspective, and then I don't know how you would juggle flashbacks in between that.
It had to be linear, and then you figure out how you want to do. And they don't even have to do flashbacks. They could literally just do the 5 years. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can eliminate those flashbacks and instead, like,
2 years, a year with 2 episodes. A year
like
with 2 episodes.
The spaceship. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are perfect moments and segments within that 5 years that you can get. Like, even Joel taking up a job, them getting a house. Like, how does Ellie navigate what happened? You know what I mean? Like, those conversations of, even though in this episode we felt like through Bella's performance that she knew that Joel was lying, but she also has to accept this surrogate dad. It's just like all of us having to suck in like something that we know for a fact, oh, this isn't right, but I'm just gonna keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Who does she talk to? What does she talk about in her headspace? Does she start to talk to someone that she eventually comes to love?
I was about to say, Dina.
Like, how does their relationship start? You know what I mean? Like, she has to have friendships to build foundations of what we get in the second game. And I think that Neil said it. Like, he's using this series as an opportunity of telling stories that he couldn't tell throughout those 2 games.
We could go down the rabbit hole for 2 more hours. And part of the reason why I don't want to go more 2 hours is because I also don't want us to bleed into more with the game of part 2, because that's a whole nother. That's another podcast. That's not even another episode. It's another podcast.
Oh, give her blonde hair. That's part 2. Let's go. That's the end of season 2. Let's go. Oh my God.
But
anyway,
in conclusion, this was a hell of an experience, and I have to thank Sam for that experience, for making me part of the experience, and for actually going, being nuts enough to be like, all right, we'll do, because I was like, we should do Bottles and Bricks, last of a podcast, and it just be like, okay, and us going with it and seeing the reception if you've bothered watching this podcast, I thank you so much. That reception that we got from the CCXP coverage was, I didn't expect that, and I'm just humbled by that. And but then leading that up to this series, and I was watching it and capturing those moments that even though we knew what was coming, we didn't know what was coming, and it still hit us the way the first game hit us. Ty, Sam, thank you so much for joining Bottles and Bricks on this journey. Where could people find you?
Find me at TeamJVS. My username as far as Twitter, Instagram, SuperSCL0320. But the truth of the matter is, man, this is just one of the best shows that HBO has ever produced. And it shows. There's a lot of care behind it. And I mean, I think Ty said it best last time. This is a gateway to possibilities of game transitions done right. And look, man, I'm excited to talk more about it. Only thing I'm going to tell Ronan, I'm going to try to pull him into our podcast about a certain Attack on Titan that me and Ty are privy to.
Oh, let's go. That's right.
Just to say, he's never seen an episode, Ty.
What?
Yeah,
I know, dude.
Okay, wait.
He is fresh.
Look, stay on target. We'll come back to that after the show. After the show. We'll talk about that after the show.
But yeah, that may be its own separate podcast.
Yeah,
we're gonna keep this going. And no, Ronan. I mean, look, I'm just here to facilitate, man. You came up with the concept, and this is a great experience, and hopefully some great reactions for you guys. We've got content all over the place. It's gonna be audio podcast. Is going to be on Ronin Unchained. There's going to be non-spoilers on my channel. Heck, we're doing a remaster discussion. I haven't told Ty this yet, but we're going back through the episodes once they're completed and having like a full group discussion for a limited time. So
with more people, who either play the game and haven't been on our show before, or people who probably haven't even played the game and just seeing, hopefully, to be like, what did you think of it? Because we know what we think of it, and
right,
yeah,
full VFX, full ADR, so it's completed. So that way, you guys have it real time as well. So as you're watching this now, you guys are probably seeing some of those already done. We're just talking about it as though it's in the future.
Yeah,
it's already happened.
We're Marty McFlying it. Right. Ty, what about you? Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me there at Ty Nitty down on at Twitter and Instagram. And 10 out of 10, watch the show. Watch this show. Watch the show. It is 10 out of 10. I know the last spoiler review or something I mentioned about something about 9 or 9.5 as a game. No, it's a 10 out of 10 show. It's a 10 out of 10 season. Just watch it, enjoy it. Come back and holler at me. Let's have great discussion. Just watch the show with reckless abandon and enjoy. It's an incredible show. It's probably the one show for 2023 that I would recommend without any hesitation or mental reservation. It is an awesome show.
Exactly. Exactly, folks. Go to Sam's channel. We'll have non-spoiler review stuff, and then we'll do a thing that I was like, we should do what the first game did with PS4 was remastered. So we'll do that hopefully with Sam's channel, with other folks who haven't been on the podcast yet. And then hopefully, if everything lines up right, we might do an overall series spoiler review remastered version in my channel.
Yeah, my man.
Oh, hey, look, I'm gonna call it right quick before we close out, Ronan. I predict by the time you guys are watching this episode and watching our spoiler discussion that a second season will be announced. And I think they're going to announce that The Last of Us 3 is coming. I'm going to make that prediction.
Yes.
Right now.
Great prediction, my friend. I love George R.R. Martin and the Westworld world. I just don't hope it's a Winds of Winter scenario when it comes to part 3. If we do that announcement. And if you're hearing this, if you're watching first time, you can follow me on Twitter and on YouTube at Ronin Unchained, doing reaction reviews to this, to Star Wars. This is going to be a big year with Mandalorian and Ahsoka by themselves and Bad Batch, hopefully by then. But what I've been saying for these past few weeks, and you know what, I'm going to switch it up. All I'm going to say is that no matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Thank y'all. Have a good day.